I want to turn to our Jeff Pegues, our CBS News Justice and Homeland Security correspondent. Jeff, let me ask you about the climate law enforcement is facing right now. We've talked a little bit here about the racial kind of conversation and the context, but what is it that law enforcement has faced here? Have tensions between law enforcement officials and communities of color changed? Have they grown? Have they eased? Because President Obama has certainly tried to have conversations started about some of these racial issues.
Well, no doubt about it. These are very difficult times for law enforcement. The men and women in blue across this country feel, and I've talked to many of them directly, I've talked to their representatives, they feel like they are under scrutiny like never before. There was talk about the Ferguson effect, that this cell phone videos of police in action has prompted this outcry for change, and as a result, police officers across this country are feeling second-guessed, Monday morning quarterback. As the basis for my book, I went to Chicago, which is a city in many ways in turmoil now when it comes to how law enforcement is dealing with the black community and how that city is recovering after the shooting of Laquan McDonald. You remember that he was a 17-year-old who was shot 16 times, and since that time, the city of Chicago has gone through this turmoil as the police department attempts to reform, but the rank and file in that city, I've been told, is stepping back. All right, so they're not enforcing as they did at one time. So this idea of proactive policing, they are taking a step back. And I heard that from representatives of rank and file police officers because, again, the police in Chicago, and we're really seeing this across the country, they are taking a step back. They're not doing all that they used to do, in part because they feel they are not appreciated and their efforts are not appreciated. And so there is a crisis in this country when it comes to law enforcement and how law enforcement interacts with the black community. And what does that mean going forward for law enforcement? So there are some real serious questions here. And all of this is unfolding at the same time that we're seeing spikes in crime in cities across the country. So these are very troubling times for law enforcement as it tries to respond to the criticism, as it tries in many big cities to reform.
So, Jeff, given what you just said, what are the kinds of things that those rank and file officials would like to see changed or different? Is it that in the communities that they police, they don't necessarily have cooperation from residents there? What are the sorts of concerns that these officers have?
Well, we talk about what has happened in the last week, the tension that police are feeling, the tension the black community is feeling as a result of the shootings, not only in Dallas, of course, but Baton Rouge and in Minnesota. And so all of that is having an impact on law enforcement in this country. Again, feeling, as one police official told us, feeling like police have a target on their back right now. And so this is a point where, yes, law enforcement agencies are trying to reform, but part of the problem is, and as I alluded to, it's happening at a time when crime is rising, and so reform means changing tactics. So when you're in a city and you're trying to figure out, well, why is crime spiking? Well, it may be because tactics are changing. Police are not having the interaction that they've had in the past with people in the community, the type of interaction that prevents crime from popping up. In addition, and this is another big issue for law enforcement and lawmakers in this country, there just aren't enough police officers to go around. The reality is, with all of the attention that police policing is getting these days, it is harder for these police departments across the country to find new recruits. So there are so many related issues to how law enforcement deals with the black community and the response from law enforcement that it really is affecting policing in this country on the ground level in these neighborhoods and in many of these inner city neighborhoods where effective policing tactics are needed the most.
All right, Jeff Pegues, stand by for us.